First story was posted 2 years ago by a Reddit user named Strawberry Pops. I've experienced something that I can't explain. I used to work in a very small pharmacy, and our stockroom was in the basement. It was a long rectangular room with tall shelves off the side, creating an aisle. About halfway down there was a break in the shelves, and you could walk through into a second room. We nicknamed this room the dungeon. It had a couple of steps up into it and a low ceiling, so it was pretty tiny, and there was a stepladder in the far corner with a trap door which opened up behind the till on the shop floor. This was the first escape if you were downstairs. I was in the basement and looked up to see a guy walking through the gap in the shelves into the dungeon. Nothing seemed particularly off, apart from not knowing why he was there. He was blonde, wearing dungarees, a blue and white checkered shirt. Just looked normal really. I called out to see what he was doing, but he ignored me. Rude ASF. I went into the dungeon after him and he was already gone, presumably up through the trap door. I went back upstairs and asked the only other person working there, a locum pharmacist, so only there that one day, who the guy was, but they didn't have a clue what I was talking about and swore no one had come in the shop and certainly no one had come through the trap door. We even watched the cameras covering the shop floor back to check, and no one apart from the two of us had been in at that time. Weird as hell. Jump ahead a year and we've got a Saturday girl. She came running up the stairs from the basement one day, almost in tears, saying that the man had scared her. I asked who she was talking about, and she described a blonde guy in dungarees and a blue and white shirt who'd walked through from the basement to the dungeon, ignored her calling to them, and then disappeared after going into the dungeon. I mean, what the hell is that? She refused to go down there on her own after that, so I had to spend time down there instead. Never saw the guy again, but quite regularly found stacked boxes strewn across the floor and things that had been neatly put away on shelves thrown around. It was so weird. I'm really not one to run around shouting ghosts are real, but I've never been able to figure out what happened here. Second story was posted 1 year ago by a Reddit user named Humble Trees. From my earliest memories, my parents used to say I would kick my blankets off in my sleep. No one ever actually saw me doing this. When I slept in the same bed as my parents, this never occurred. This is significant because I used to experience some form of invisible entity, for lack of a better word. I'd hear footsteps, see my door handle go down, often feel this thing standing on my bed and my duvet pulling tight. Imagine someone standing on your bed. I had all the experiences of sound and sight and pressure you'd experience, but nothing to be seen. My duvet used to get slowly pulled off of me by some invisible entity. I told my parents and they thought it was just nightmares. This went on for years and years, about once or twice a month. One night it happened and I screamed a lot, as I often did, and my dad came running in. As he turned on the light, we both saw my Lego bucket get kicked across the room. No pets in the room. This was about 3 meters from either of us. The bucket was sitting on the floor under a small coffee table. The Lego went flying and scattered across the floor. We were both freaked the fuck out, and my dad to this day still talks about how impossible that situation was for it to be anything other than the soaked kind of poltergeist. I was about 11 at the time, so not super young even. I've had many more experiences, but this one was the most unique because of 2 independent people having the same experience and actually seeing the impact of it scattering my Lego. I've got no answers. I would put it down to sleep paralysis, but that doesn't explain things moving. Third story was posted 8 months ago by a Reddit user named FickleForever8275. We lived in a big house that was located in the Blue Ridge Mountains. We grew up there and nothing ever happened. But when we went to my grandma's house, just down the road, the creepiest things would happen to my sister. She would say at night after we all fell asleep, she would be woken up by a slap across the stomach. She thought it was me and came to my room to yell at me. When she came in, I was sound asleep and she freaked out, so I let her sleep in my room. Another time we were outside playing and it was getting dark. I said as we were cleaning up, I had to go inside to the bathroom and I would be back. She said okay, but when I got back, she was laying on the ground screaming and crying. She said she saw me come out of the house and run right at her and then punch her in the face. Then she said I took off around the corner of the house, and when she went after me, she saw something horrifying. She said it was a tall creature, probably about 7 feet, and wearing a black robe. She said she saw it and froze in fear, and it kept looking at her, but all she could see was its glowing eyes from the darkness. Then she said it let out a horrible scream, and she blinked and it was gone. Then she collapsed on the ground where I saw her. She told my grandma, but she acted like my sister was playing. 2 days later, my grandma came flying up to our house at about 10:30 a.m. She came in screaming. She said she was last night in the kitchen making brownies when she heard someone at the front door knocking. She said it was around 8, so she was a little scared, but she went to see who it was, and there was no one. She thought it was some kid from down the road, so she didn't think anything of it. But then, later in the kitchen, she, out of the corner of her eye, saw a little man walking from the living room up to the stairs. She flipped out, but then she talked herself down, thinking she was just seeing things. She said she didn't go to bed until 3 in the morning, which isn't unusual for her. And she said it was around 10 in the morning when she felt the blanket being pulled off of her. So she shot up and saw a little man at the foot of her bed smiling. So she ran out of the house and came straight to us. She now sold the house.